I hope I scared you. I hope you shit your pants. Anyway, it is HYPERTROPHY back at it again with another video. Nah, okay. It's HYPERTROPHY. First of all, you're gonna see some, well, you're gonna hear some cooking because I'm gonna cut and I'm making some konjac noodle thing with tuna. So yeah, I'm just cooking real quick. Well, by real quick I mean real slowly because I've got no concept of time, and I probably have ADHD, which is probably why for all of my life I've had time blindness. I can't confirm it, but I wouldn't be surprised because I've got like 50 trillion other signs that might point to it. Anyway, today's subject is why Jeff Nippar, science-based lifter, why his shoulder building advice is doo-doo. It is dingle nut behavior. It just sucks. Okay, it's not terrible, like in terms of it being so irredeemably terrible or whatever, but my goodness, are there some questionable things he is saying in that video. This is sucralose, by the way. I never see anyone use this. It's always like the Splendor, which is 50 trillion pounds per bag or whatever. Meanwhile, this is like 10 or 20 pounds, and it lasts me 2 years. It's ridiculous. Probably more than 2 years. Maybe even like my last batch lasted me quite a bit of time. The only reason I had to buy another one was because it literally fell on the floor, which sucked because I was literally a year's worth of sweetener just gone. Anyway, enough distractions, fuck's sake. Yeah, Jeff Nippar's video kind of is a doo-doo video. I had to watch it just to make sure I wasn't just getting my sources from a biased source, because it was from Greg Doucette that I saw that video. I was thinking, well, okay, Jeff Nippar couldn't really have done that much in terms of... Oh shit, he did. Ooh. So what did he do? Okay, what's the most terrible thing he did? He didn't do something terrible. He just misguided a lot of people. So, what's happened is, on his shoulder video, he gave really bad progression advice for naturals. And also was kind of contradictory with it all. So, here's the thing. When he was talking about compound movements, he was saying, add 5 pounds, 5 to 10 pounds actually, every week to your exercises for like 5 to 6 reps or so. Now, here's the thing. Initially, that sounds like good advice. You know, add 5 pounds to, you know, make sure that you match the reps or whatever. But think about it for the long term. We always overestimate what we can do in the short term and underestimate what we can do for the long term. And this is such a clear case of that, because 5 pounds. Listen, if you are detrained like crazy, if you are a complete beginner, maybe... Sorry, I'm just trying to... I've been having this thing where my right rear delt's been kind of feeling good, but then I do this and it feels a bit weird here, so I'm just trying to... Sometimes I like just want to make sure I got that motion down. Anyway, 5 pounds. No, sorry. You're a beginner. You're just learning the movement. You are starting with 5 pounds on each hand. Yeah, maybe you can go up to 10 pounds each hand. Maybe even after that you can go to 15. But here's the thing, right? Listen, 5 pounds. 5 being week 1 of 2026. You're telling me by 2027 you're able to lift 250 pounds? 250 pounds per hand? That is ridiculous. That is silly. I mean, I assume that's my count. Let me see. 5 pounds. I just want to not gaslight myself. 5 pounds. Let's just say 50 just to be clear and safe, and also because my math skills are terrible. 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. Yeah, it is pretty bad. 200? He's expecting you to lift 250 pounds each side by the end of the year. That's just not how it works. Now, you would have expected that he said that rep progression will drop off. And he does. But then he doesn't. So one tip he will say is to add 5 to 10 pounds. But then a tip or so after that, he will say that on certain exercises, you aren't able to progress as fast, and then you should use a rep range. Now that's sound advice, but the thing is, Mr. NIPPAWWWd, that is not just one exercise. It's not just the lateral raises that fail with that. It is quite literally all of these exercises. And you know what's the worst part? He says that once you're not able to do that in a week, you have to swap exercises. So you're telling me that when it's just about getting good, when the muscular gains are now the ones responsible for the strength gains, we then swap the exercise and relearn that exercise for artificial progression that is induced mostly by neurological adaptations. Yeah, no, that's a hard pass from me. Now, he does say to add 1 rep to one of your sets with stuff like lateral raises. And that is so good because, listen, if you get 9, 7, 5 on one exercise, right, when you add up weight or whatever, and you're not able to completely progress, but then it's 9, 7, 6, 9, 8, 6, 9, 8, 7, 9, 9, 7, and then 9. Well, I mean, this is assuming that you're keeping the top set to 1 number, but it could also be like 9, 8, 6, 9, 8, 7, 10, 9, 8, or something like that. Right, because, you know, I mean, I'm not saying these are completely predictable, super, you know, accurate progressions, but let's just do that. Let's just say that for the sake of the argument. That is valid progression because you're kind of just, you know, you let the muscle do the thing. You come into the gym, you work hard, and you have enough activeness. Like you're active enough to be able to push yourself, but you're letting the muscle do the rest of the work. You just trust the process rather than trying to push the process past your capabilities. That is hypertrophy training. What he's saying is 5 pounds, 5 pounds, 5 pounds. And listen, maybe under certain circumstances can you build strength that quick, but eventually it stalls. Or not stalls, but like, you know, goes to like, you know, 1 rep every 2 weeks, 1 rep every 3 weeks. I mean, Jeffrey Virgil Schofield, freaking tank of a person. He's out here, you know, repping the same weight for months at a time. And yes, I am scratching my own balls because I would like to do that, okay? This is my video, not yours, dickhead. You want to, oh, why are you going to be? Yeah, because I'm reaching in my pocket and then going like this so I can make sure that my balls don't hurt. Anyway, you are telling me also that you do this for a year, you're gonna come back and you're not gonna regret this decision. You are definitely gonna regret it because I've done that. I would pick an exercise. Oh, this feels good. Kind 6, 7, 6, 7. No, I pick this exercise. It's cool. I progress fast because my neurological adaptations are kicking in because I'm trying to relearn the movement. But then I stall, and by stall I mean I didn't get exactly a rep after 2 weeks. Okay, fine, now I'm gonna just go to a different exercise. Or maybe, in worst case scenario, I actually do gain a rep each time. But you know what happens when I gain a rep each time? Oh yeah, I hurt myself. On my calves, on my shoulders, on my upper chest, on my biceps. And that's not good. That's horrible advice. On my dips. Oh my goodness, the amount of times I've just progressively overloaded. You know, add a rep each week. Yeah, you know what that gets me? Costochondritis. It's not nice, it's not fun. I'm not saying for you to be passive. I am coming from the perspective of someone who's inherently a bit of an ego lifter. So potentially 5 pounds every week for a small period of time is good advice. The thing is, progression is over time, not within a certain time. We don't talk about, well, I guess everything is within a certain time period if you look at it in a certain way, but Why is it that there's a time limit on progression when, first of all, you're going to be lifting for the rest of your life? So you're probably not going to want to dump a good enough exercise just to be able to get like some sort of quick dopamine high of adding a rep each week every time. Well, guess what? You're starting from square 1.2 and then you're going up to square 2 and you're just about to actually get the good progression. And then you're going back to square 1.2, 1.3 maybe, if you waited just a little bit longer than, like, say, 3 weeks without realizing, oh shit, you know, maybe I didn't add exactly the cleanest rep every time. You may be able to add 5 pounds each week for, like, a month or so, maybe 2. If you're like a beginner, and you know, a rep at least each week is valid as a beginner, but even the reps, they will slow down. I mean, you know, you can see this sort of faultiness in the way that Jeff Nippard approaches progression in how he does his rear delt work. He himself, on one of his shorts, talked about how his rear delts were getting smaller because his upper traps were taking over because he was just trying to push weight. And it's totally understandable, right? No one's going to be out here saying, oh, how dare you try and lift more than you're capable of. I mean, we're dudes at the end of the day. At least, you know, if not dudes, we are women who are out here heavily passionate. We're just passionate. Okay, if you're on a channel like this and you're somehow entertained by me, just neurotically just ranting about strength progression, you're probably a little bit obsessed with weightlifting. So, of course, you're out here trying to lift a weight, but you also kind of get a little sidetracked to a point where you're not able to find the true hypertrophy you desire. Not to say that ego lifting can't get you insanely big, like it most certainly can. However, it does come with its own caveats, and the thing is, it's to a point where you eventually just reach actual stalling. Because listen, if you're out here trying to change the form bit by bit to be able to get that progression, even if it's like the slightest little bit form, you put the slightest little bounce, that is a slight bit less stimulus on the muscle. This is not to say that you should be out here just absolutely miserable and just passive as hell. However, Fast Lifts talks about this where you kind of need a strength progression framework. So like 1 rep every month. And maybe you can add in a little extra oomph into your movement if you're not able to exactly get that rep progression in the beginning, but then at least you clean up the form. You spend time with the muscle. You spend time with that rep. You don't do what Jeff Nippard, science-based lifter, is suggesting, which is just... I mean, it's interesting because he literally did say, you know, 50-pound lateral raises in like a very short time span. It is definitely going to be, you know, impossible. And so he does talk about rep ranges. And that's true. Just to be clear, when he was talking about adding 5 to 10 pounds, he was talking about, like, you know, overhead presses and stuff. And, like, you know, the big compound. You know, we need to talk about the big compound movements also one of these days. Because when people say compound movements, they instantly associate it with ridiculously heavy weight. As if that's the only way to elicit proper hypertrophy, which is not to say that you should be lifting light relative to yourself, but it should be heavy in a sense that you are able to control it. It's still gonna hurt you if you don't control it, but you can master it, okay? I mean, if we're talking about the big heavy movement, we're always thinking about some big burly guy just fucking heaving something, right? And listen, again, form. I don't know if I mentioned this in this recording or this recording or the recording beforehand, but you can most definitely get fucking huge if you do a little bit of ego lifting. No one's saying you can't, however, it has to be consistent form. Now, ego lifting can be a little hard to have consistent form because you're just changing the form bit by bit, and it's not necessarily the weight you're lifting; it's also the ego. Like you can't reach this weight with this form. You gotta go even worse with the form, or not worse, but like say more oomph, more body language. And for hypertrophy, consistency is key. You know, one of the worst things that has happened to the bodybuilding community is when Arnold said you need to confuse the muscle. You do not. Like honestly, you need to make that muscle so clear on what that muscle or what it's supposed to do, so that it can actually do the work. Like okay, imagine this: you can't shoot a cannon from a canoe. So why do you think you can shoot massive gains from an unstable neurological adaptation that hasn't had the full time? That hasn't had the time that it needed to get familiar with the movement, right? I hope you heard all of that, by the way. I'm just getting some vegetables in this thing. We have to make sure that our canoe, it's not a canoe, actually. We need to make sure that that thing is actually a stable-ass ship, okay? Imagine you learning a movement is you building a ship. The muscle gains are the balls, all right? Are the balls, the cannonballs. It's only natural that it has to be that way because, you know, imagine if you could build muscle from just anything. You could build such incredible strength and you can exert it to your full capacity, even though you don't know the movement. I mean, say you're, you know, Mr. Grug from the minus 50 billionth century, right? Mr. Grug, you're on top of like a mountain or whatever, you're trying to push a stone up. Imagine if Mr. Grug was able to push that thing up 50,000 pounds of force, but he's also on an unstable rock. Well, good luck, dickhead. He's gonna die. And it's not too dissimilar in this case. If you're just not able to properly master that movement, and then you're suddenly just gonna push with all your might, you might tweak, you probably will fuck something up. Okay. Think about the time before you get used to the movement and after you get used to the movement, how much stronger you are. Now imagine you fucked up the form to begin with and you were able to exert maximum strength because your neurological adaptations, like say they don't matter, you would fuck something up. It's a good thing that you don't have that. So, what would I say to summarize all of this up? You should progress when you progress. You come in, you train hard. Muscle building is sadly more passive than we would like it to be. It would be so sick if I was Goku or something, or we were Goku, we could just train harder and then we could just gain strength within the match, right? It would be so cool, but we can't. We sadly can't. It sucks so bad, but it is what it is, and it's for our own good. So, how can we put this into the context of a hypertrophy program? Simple. If you are out here, right? If you're out here on a leg press, or a leg extension, or an isolation, or anything, right? And you haven't had progression in, let's say, 2 weeks, and you're an intermediate. Heck, even if you're a beginner, if you're doing like lateral raises and, you know, you maybe didn't get the rep instantly on your top set on your lateral raises, it's okay. Just make sure your joints aren't hurting, so that you're, which is good indicator that you're doing too much volume, or maybe your form is shit. Make sure your form's good. Make sure you're eating enough to be able to give you the energy to progress. Make sure that you're pushing hard with each set. Oh, also, one more thing. He was talking about, oh, you add more mechanical tension. You're only able to handle as much mechanical tension as you're able to handle. Like, you're only able to handle as much as you're able to handle. So just adding. At certain points, if you're just going to add, you're actually going to take away mechanical tension because you're just going to pump. Like, okay, say I'm able to do 10 kilos just fine like this, right? Awesome. And then I'm suddenly forcing myself to do 15 and then 20. And it's not going to necessarily be just like that because 10 kilos is kind of like, okay, let's say 30 kilos. 30 kilos, I got neurologically adapted to the movement. And then it's like 32, oh shit. They'll bounce, okay? Nothing too big. 35, next 35. 37.5. 40. You see how much other stuff has to come into play just to hit an arbitrary number for an arbitrary amount of reps in an arbitrary week or in an arbitrary time period. A week is not just inevitably just put into our human system. We made it from some guy. Some guy made the calendar, right? That isn't a biological thing. A week is not a biological thing. You know, it could have been 8 days, it could have been 7 days, it could have been 6 days, 4 days, 20 days, for all we know. Okay, so just remember that time, as it's organized, is human-made. It is not your biology. Anyway, say you want progression, make sure that over time, not within a certain period of time, over time, log your lifts for the long haul, not just one page on a notepad, just to talk about last session. Because you see that one last session, you want to put that +1 on even if you're not ready. You look at the time of that thing, you know, you see it being like 2 weeks ago, or maybe a week ago. You also see other progressions beforehand, where it's like, okay, 3 weeks, I did 8. Now, this last week, 3 weeks ago, I did 8. This last week, I hit 9. Okay, so maybe I won't hit 10. Maybe I'll just get an even cleaner, crisper 9. And then just have fun. Chill. Damn it, chill. Just chill. You'll be fine. Okay, you won't die if you don't hit 10. Okay? Dickhead. Just chill. It might take 2 weeks. It might be like GVS, where he's repping the same reps for freaking 3 months in a row when you're an advanced lifter. So just be prepared for that, okay? Be hard, train hard. Be active enough to train hard, but don't meddle with your own progression. And when they get slow, that's probably the time you're actually building the most muscle. That's it for me.